I welcome the Boston Global Forum initiative on the G7. I wish all the best for that meeting. Unfortunately, because of previous commitments, I will not be able to participate, but I've been informally in contact with the participants, and I know they have been preparing a very good work that can be a very interesting input for the G7 summit in Japan. And what can we say about the G7? I've been all these years participating in the G7 and the G8 meetings since 2004, during the 10 years I was leading the European Commission. And my experience of this format is indeed a very positive one, because you have there the leaders of the 7 very important countries in the world, together with the European Union, discussing in a very deep manner the most important issues in the global economic and political agenda. This meeting this year in Japan comes, of course, at a very important moment. We are still seeing signs of some concern regarding the global economy. We are seeing an unprecedented situation of monetary injection, at the same time some retraction in terms of investment, and also concerns about the lack of consumer and investor confidence, namely in the more mature economies. So I believe it will be important to have a common approach in this G7 meeting in Japan on support for growth, sustained growth. If all the economies that are represented by the leaders in the G7 summit commit to consensual approach on this matter, it will certainly be good news for the global economy. But there are other concerns beyond the economy, and in fact some geopolitical concerns may have some kind of impact in the current economic mood. Global threats like national terrorism, Muslim fundamentalism, they are in fact very bad news. The consequences of the conflicts in some areas, namely in the Middle East, the Syria conflict, and I believe it will be important to have a clear statement of the leaders of G7 about those matters. In Europe, besides the Syria crisis, the terrorism threat, the impact in terms of refugees that is putting pressure in some of our countries, there is also the concern about the actions of Russia, namely about their actions concerning Ukraine. I believe it will also be important to have a frank and open discussion among leaders in this G7 summit. And of course there is now a very new kind of challenge and threat. It is the issue of cyber attacks. And so I think it is important that the world is serious tackling that challenge and that threat of cyber security. It's a new kind of threat, and for a new kind of threat we need new instruments. I personally believe that it will be important that the leaders of G7 agree on a common approach, possibly a global binding approach based in international law, so that they can also ask others to join, because this is something that is having an impact, sometimes in economic sentiment, but also in the overall feeling or perception of security or insecurity. So I really hope that the G7 in Japan makes progress in these and other areas, and from my personal experience participating in so many of these G7 or G8 meetings, I can tell you that's a very adequate forum for having really intimate, sometimes with some level of complicity, meetings where leaders can, during some days, very openly discuss the issues, and of course afterwards agree on some positions. And it is important to talk, because that is the best way to achieve convergent views. I wish all the best for the G7 in Japan. I welcome the Boston Global Forum meeting and I wish all the best for that meeting. Unfortunately, because of previous commitments, I cannot participate, but I'm well informed about the preparation of that meeting and about the quality of the work done, for instance, in the field of cyber security. So let me send my best wishes for the success of the Boston Global Forum Summit.